So, Invincible recently graced us with one of its pivotal and iconic diner scenes where they give us updates. This time it was Mark alongside Adam Eve, which was really awesome. I really love the way that they play it so close to breaking the fourth wall, but not directly breaking the fourth wall by addressing things with the fans, addressing things that fans have said regarding him not winning fights. And they also tease something that he is going to win a significant larger number of fights in season 4. But not only that, Robert Kirkman, the creator of Invincible, also came out and confirmed a bunch of things for season 4, teased a bunch of things. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because today we're talking Invincible, season 4, details revealed. But before we get into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Alright, Invincible Season 4. Obviously, Season 3 ended on a pretty climactic note with the Conquest fight, the funeral of Rexplode. All the emotions are pretty high right now. We obviously know that Nolan and Alan are out there. We did get that tease that there are only 50, or actually less than 50, pure-blooded Viltrumites still out there, and that's their most closely guarded secret, and that is going to be something that will be shared with the rest of the coalition of planets. So getting into some of the reveals, the biggest one to me is the release date, and that was confirmed in that little diner scene between Adam, Eve, and Mark, and they did confirm it will be March 2026, which is really awesome because I know for a little bit people were thinking there might be years between seasons. We even had that mid-season break for a few months between season 2. However, in my opinion, the producers, creators, and everyone behind the show saw the negative reaction to that and then made a conscious decision to ensure that it would release every single year. Right around March of this past year was when season 3 did come out. So the fact that we are getting it kind of about the same time next year makes me really, really happy. I don't like waiting years for projects to come out, especially when it's a television series, and especially when it's only 8 episodes. Now, I know one of the other things that often gets talked about is the animation and the quality of animation. I personally have never had an issue with any scene in this show. There was only one noticeable part, and that was in season 3 when they were running on the stairs. However, to me, if there was a part that you could maybe quote-unquote cheap out on the animation, it was that part right there. It ended up being mostly meaningless, especially that specific scene in particular. Save the money. Save it for the big fights, the big moments, the times when we need amazing animation, like they did for the Conquest fight. And that fight was absolutely spectacular. Now, getting into some of the other details that were revealed, we obviously got the official designs for Thrag, who is obviously the big bad villain in Invincible, and we also did get confirmed at New York City Comic-Con who will be voicing Thrag, and that is Lee Pace. Now, I did a little bit of research, and he hasn't done really any voice acting. However, he was in the Twilight series. He was in a couple other notable series, so he is a bigger named actor, similar to how they got Jeffrey Dean Morgan to voice Conquest. I really enjoy that they do tend to spend a lot of their money on a really incredible voice cast. He did a little bit of what his voice would sound like, at least similar to what his voice would sound like at New York City Comic-Con, and to me, it sounded really good. Is it my perfect, ideal version of Thrag? No. However, it's not something that's going to bother me or take me out of the show. And also, I'm going to wait to fully judge it until we see the finished product. Because again, it could be tweaked, it could be slightly different. So I'm not going to be up in arms about it, at least not yet. I want to give it time to develop. That being said, Robert Kirkman also came out and said a couple interesting things regarding season 4, one of which was regarding Alan and Nolan. They will be out there building the coalition, building their own team. Obviously, you're going to get Thaddeus and Nolan reuniting, because obviously they're both Viltrumites that did abandon the Empire. So Alan is going to bring Nolan to the coalition. He's going to have Nolan tell Thaddeus, as well as the other coalition members, everything he knows, and especially that fact about, hey, there are less than 50 Viltrumites, and they are going to be tasked with going out and building a special team, one of which is going to be the Space Racer. the one who made that special gun that literally can't be deflected and it will destroy or disintegrate anything that it touches. I'm pretty sure Nolan did encounter it in one of his novels, and it ended up destroying either a moon or a small planet. So again, you can definitely see why something like that would be beneficial to have. In my opinion, they are going to also try to get some of the Ragnars. Obviously, in the comics, they do end up going to that planet, trying to get some, and they find that it is too difficult because they attempt to freeze them, and it just doesn't work out, and they end up getting out of there without any of them. But luckily, no one from the Coalition does die. Now, the reason that this is interesting, aside from we're getting more Alan and Omni-Man together, which is a dynamic that I personally really love, it's also interesting because we know there is a traitor amongst the Coalition. And this is going to explain why and how Conquest and that small elite team who attacks eventually Omni-Man, Mark, Oliver, and Alan, it's going to explain how they knew what they were doing, where they're at, and why they're so in the loop. Speaking of Conquest, we are also going to see the escape of Conquest in this season. We're going to see the ramifications of Cecil having lied to Mark once again. He just continues to lie to Mark and then wonder why he doesn't want to trust him. It's literally because you just constantly keep lying to the guy and making contingency plans for someone who has never done anything wrong to you or the planet. Again, I'm Team Mark when it comes to that, but that aside, we are also getting a couple other things in this season, one of which is going to be the invasion of the Sequids. Now again, from the time I'm filming this video, I have read all of the Invincible comics. During season 2, during that mid-season break, I decided, you know what, I'm going to just sit down, read all of the comics, and I will say, it has been really enjoyable to know what is supposed to happen, but also see the different nuances that the show offers, and the little slight deviations that it takes from the comics, but then also the storylines in which it sticks directly to the comics. It's been really awesome to experience, so anyone who hasn't read it and doesn't mind quote-unquote spoilers, I would highly recommend it, especially because, again, like I said, it's more of a nuanced thing. They are going to differentiate in certain ways. Again, I can think of two things that I would bet money they are not putting in the TV show. Again, I'll save that for another video. However, back to the Sequid invasion. Now, we do know that this is going to take place in the beginning half of the season. That was confirmed by Robert Kirkman. Russ Livingston is going to lead that army up against Mark and the heroes, mainly the Guardians of the Globe, as well as a couple other quote-unquote no-name heroes. That being said, they are going to get pushed to the limit, and in Robert Kirkman's words, Mark is going to get pushed into a situation where he is in a moral dilemma, that he has to make a decision to go against how he thinks. Now, to me, that is going to be him killing Russ Livingston. Again, this is nothing, no bearings on anything in the comics. This is just what I truly believe is going to happen. Also, because Robert Kirkman said a big thing for Mark this season is going to be grappling with the fact that he is going to be darker this season. He's going to be more brutal this season. And I feel like where we left off with season 3, especially the end of season 3, everything with Conquest and Angstrom Levy, it makes sense that Mark is going to finally stop holding back and probably end up killing Russ Livingston. Even though he's technically an innocent person just being brainwashed and mind-controlled by the hive mind of the Sequids. However, that's not going to matter to Mark. He's going to determine that the greater good matters more than his own personal moral code. And I feel like we're going to see him dive down this journey of becoming darker and darker, and that is where we are going to have our next storyline set up for the series, and that's another thing that Robert Kirkman did confirm. And he also said which episode it's going to be, which is really, really interesting to me. Damian Darkblood, as you saw from the post-credit scene in Season 3, is going to have a significant story in this season. And it's actually something that Robert Kirkman said he wanted to do in the original comic. However, they did end up just running out of time, and it became something that was on the back burner. So that being said, that is what they are planning to do in this season. it's going to be Damian Darkblood bringing someone of a darkened heart that is very, very strong, again, with what happened to Mark in Season 3. And what Robert Kirkman has teased in Season 4 for Mark, it would make a ton of sense for Mark to be the one that Damian Darkblood is trying to bring down to hell to his boss. I don't think they revealed who his boss's name is. It's some demon, obviously. However, that being said, that is going to be a really, really cool storyline, especially because Robert Kirkman himself wrote the entire episode. And he also revealed which episode it is. And it's going to be episode 4, which is normally some type of mid-season finale. So it's going to be really epic. I feel like it is just going to be contained within that one episode. And when all of that's over, Mark is going to be in a darker place, even more so than he is in the first 3 episodes. And it's going to end with Omni-Man and Alan the Alien returning. Now, that being said, that is officially all we have as far as official confirmations and actual news regarding Invincible Season 4. However, some speculation and speculatory things that I'm going to do right now will be regarding Alan the Alien and Omni-Man. I believe after episode 4, when Mark is feeling really down at his absolute darkest, they are going to appear. It will be similar to an end credit scene of that episode, and that will set up the latter half of the season. And to me, we're also going to get Thrag in that latter half of the season. We're going to get him conversing with Conquest, sending Conquest after Mark, Omni-Man, Alan, and Oliver. And to me, the season finale is going to be that second battle between Conquest and Mark. And it is going to end with Mark once again killing Conquest. And then we're going to be left with, hey, Mark is now nowhere to be found, because if I remember correctly, he does go missing for a little bit after that fight because he takes it to Conquest, let's just say. Again, not trying to spoil anything, it is just an epic, epic fight. And the show's called Invincible, so you know, Season 4, he's not gonna die. Spoiler alert. That being said, another really interesting thing that Robert Kirkman has said many times, he wants this show to go for at least 8 seasons. Now, that's why I say I don't think the Viltrumite War is going to start in this season, and the ending of the season or the season finale is going to be that second fight between Mark and Conquest, rather than I've seen some people online say the final fight or the final episode will actually be that final fight versus Thrag in space, where Thaddeus does end up meeting his demise. However, that being said, I do definitely disagree with that. I just don't see them doing that, especially not in Season 4, if they want to do at least 8 seasons. But that's just me. Let me know what all of you think. Which of these storylines or announcements are you most excited to see? Do you mind the animation of Invincible? Again, I'm just curious. And what do you think is going to happen in this season? Do you agree with my predictions? Or do you think they are going to start the Viltrumite War? Let me know in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.